Hello everyone and welcome back. This is the Vintage Sewing Machine Garage. We got sort of a kind of sunny day, partly sunny day, a little hazy here, and I love natural light for doing these videos for you guys. I just think things show up better. Anyway, you are looking at the white sewing machine from 1961, 62. This is the white 565 model, and it is the second one in a row. I had one that I overhauled, and you guys have seen some videos on. It was the one that was sitting in the someone had salvaged the top deck of a sewing table, and strangely, it's not uncommon to see the turquoise or two-tone turquoise white machines from this period. But they had a lot of different models, right? 400 series models, 500 series models. But I got two 565's in a row because there's the second one. I think I did a video talking about both of them. And both of these machines have they're literally the same model, right? They both have the same features, adjustable needle position. Of course, this is a zigzag model made in Japan. We have the hatch up here that is up top that can take cams. The cams for this machine are being sold separately, and I do that because I can charge less for the machine. And then if the customer says, you know, I want the cams, I want to pay extra, that's fine, but they're not required to. And I just find that I used to just, price the machine based on all of the things that went with it, and that's not always helpful for the buyer. And I may even find people who really need those accessories or optional items, and someone else doesn't. So, why not, make sure that try to get as close to what the person's looking for as possible. Okay, so like you will notice here, this particular version of the 565 still has its little chrome ball knob, and that is attached to the needle position. And you'll see there's a little scrap fabric where I was doing some test stitching. But of course, with the needle up, you can see that we can move the needle to either side. Early on, sewing machines didn't offer you that. You couldn't control the position of the needle, even with a lot of zigzag models. They didn't have this. This was an extra, it was an extra device, an extra cost, an extra design element that had to be entered into the machine. And companies competing with each other, they all wanted to be able to say, oh, that's we have this extra feature, right? We have reverse is a little push button. I always tell people to be, don't be too awfully hard on these. They're very well made, but you can do back tacking while you're sewing here. This, of course, is your device that is used to lower the feed dogs. Almost every machine I get, these are often frozen up or stuck. This one was not, actually. I was a little surprised. It hadn't been used very much. Some of these never got used. So when you buy a vintage sewing machine, don't be surprised if you get it, and if it has a feed dog lowering mechanism or adjuster, it may not work. Don't force it, because underneath this big beast, oh my God, this thing is really heavy, guys. Underneath this all steel and iron beast is you can see the mechanics of, you'll see here, if you look at this here and you look at this linkage, up top, of course, is the knob. When I turn it, notice, this here moves, and that's lowering the feed dogs. And then when I turn it back, it raises them. And you can control, I can actually come midway if you were going to sew delicate fabrics. You don't want them to be, don't want the feed dogs too rough on, these feed dogs are fine for any fabric except for things like silk and satin, things that are extra delicate. And you'll know that because they often require delicate care when they're being laundered. But anyway, this is just an example of one of the things I like to make sure, that we check it, because even if you're not going to use it, it's nice to know it's been gone through. Often it just takes a little heat, sewing machine oil, alcohol, or penetrance. In my case, this simply needed just a little cleaning and oil. That's what it needed to make it work really well. But anyway, you can, high is regular for most fabrics. Many of you won't use this much, if at all, but at least you can say, okay, it's been overhauled if you need it. On the low setting, which, as they got fancier with the feed dog drops, you could actually put it to low, like I was showing you guys underneath. But enough about that. Of course, just like with any 565 and many of the zigzag whites from this period in time, there's a spring-loaded lever here, and if you notice, I'm not going to let it snap back all the way. I don't like to be overly harsh with springs. They're very strong, but notice if I let go, it springs back over here, and the default is that it has zero width or straight stitch. And if you want to lock it in, let's say you want to do a zigzag, but you don't want it too wide, of course, you can easily lock that in, and you just move this little knob. It's a very, very strong device. Now, these screws here allow you access. You can pull this face plate off and get behind here if you need to oil, or if you have one that's stuck. This one, it works beautifully. Anyway, these white machines, like some of the Kenmores from this period, are some of the best machines you'll ever find. Some of you who've been watching my videos know I had a Singer zigzagger that I sold that took a bunch of cams. I ended up keeping the Neki BU Mira for the moment. That's the machine I use for myself. But again, I'm not brand loyal, but I really love the Nekis. If you can't find a Neki, or you don't want to pay for the Neki because they do bring higher prices than Kenmores or whites, consider one of these machines here. Okay, there are little places here and there where the Japanese, they didn't quite do the same thing as the Italians, or even that Singer did with their straight stitchers. But you know what? This machine is very well engineered. You're going to hear it in a moment, or it's hard to hear because it is so quiet. They are strong. They have 1.3 amp motors, and they have these wonderful, cool colors. These really fun colors from the late 50s, early 60s, when a lot of consumer products had all kinds of wild colors, and they had a lot of them had chrome and glitter, and there was all kinds of embellishment, just like with the cars. They did it with sewing machines. Let's see, what can we talk about that was done? This entire machine was cleaned. It had a good bit of lint in here, which is not unusual. I got all of that out. She has been cleaned. She's been oiled. There are gears up in the top that have had grease applied to them. All of the mechanisms, and those of you who see the listing, you'll see a number of photographs. I'll show you examples of some of the work I did. A brand new universal size 16 needle. It will take many different sizes of needles. I often put 16s and 14s and sometimes 18s in my machines because I like to show them sewing heavy fabrics where you would use the heavier needle. And I think this was also true of my last 565, the bobbin tire, actually no, the last one had a bobbin tire that was either white or light blue, and it was all crumbly, and it got replaced. This one, I think, didn't have one. I think it was just, maybe it had, maybe the last owner couldn't find a replacement, but they're not hard to find. My gosh, you can find these all day long on the internet, these little rubber tires. It has a brand new one now. And the clutch release mechanism for when you are winding bobbins, just like the other 565, you fold it forward. There's nothing to turn over here. You don't have to turn a clutch knob. It has an automatic clutch built in for you. So now you can see it with it engaged. Notice the needle's not moving. Sometimes when you're doing this, you'll see it, and you may have just seen it here. It'll sometimes wiggle or hop, and that's because these are not digitally exact. But again, they should work fine for you. And then now that this has been lowered and not engaged, you'll notice the needle is ready to go to work again. It has a light. You can barely see it because I have this sunlight here, but electric light works great. You can adjust your presser foot pressure here. Pretty simple to thread. There's one thread guide here after the spool, and then thread guide number 2. You come down, you come around between the discs, get on this side of your check spring, you come down again and go up. You come up to the take-up arm, you come back down through the same little shaft here. And I'll move a little closer so you guys can maybe see that a little better, for those of you who are wondering. See if I can zoom in here. Maybe that'll help you. There we go. So what I've done is I've come up with the thread up here, up to the take-up arm, and down through the same compartment. And then here's a thread guide, one last thread guide here, and then this would help if I followed where I'm pointing. Then this, there we go. You come down from the take-up arm, you come through here, and then you've got this thread guide, and then one more, and then the needle threads from the left towards the right. Okay, so we were still doing sideways needle threading. It's not until the mid-70s you get into a lot of the front to back threading, although some of the European companies were doing that as early as the 50s. We have stitch length control right here, and it's a really nice, strong, I really like this control feature. It's really strong, it's accurate, it works well. There's even a little clip over here to hold your machine. This is not, never try to ship a machine in one of these cases. These little clips are not going to hold your machine. This is just sort of something to keep it from, this thing's so heavy, I don't know why this is needed, but there it is. What else to share with you? Not much else to share. Oh, it comes with, it's original. You can see it's got printed here and sort of color coordinated, a little faded there. Model 565. If any of you have a model like this, maybe it's the same one as this or something similar, or any vintage machine, if you don't have the original manual, don't let you can really benefit, even if you're an experienced sewer, getting access to a manual can be really helpful for everything from thread guiding to bobbin loading and so forth. And you can often find them on the internet. If they're Singer manuals, almost all of those are free. You just download them as PDFs. If you need a manual for another machine, you can often find them online, and usually they're $10. I've never seen them for more than $15. I wouldn't pay more than that. What else to say? This machine is designed for double needle sewing if any of you are that ambitious. And let's see. Okay, I wanted to show you guys. I actually don't have a jeans needle in here, but that's okay. Let's get our camera angle back here just a bit. And I'm going to sew for you. This is sort of a canvas material. It was part of a tote bag. And then I have webbing, this nylon webbing. You can see where the handle was. Now, when this was made, I didn't make this bag. This bag was made, obviously, you can see where it has a surged edge, right? They used an overlock machine. However, on this side, you can see these are the original stitches. And I'm just going to go behind it. I have a different colored thread, and I'll show you. This machine can sew all kinds of fabrics. Again, it has one of the strongest motors ever put into a domestic sewing machine. 1.5 is the highest. This is 1.3, and it's a 1/10 of an amp higher than Kenmore's. You know they did that on purpose just to spite Sears. Anyway, let's take, and you can see here I've got this was my test sample here. You can see it's not actually, it's a brown piece of fabric. I'm almost out of that fabric as a remnant, and my thread is brown. Sorry about that, but hopefully the light helped show that a little bit. Okay, first thing we'll do is we're going to take this fabric here, and I'm going to turn it over. We'll have two layers, and notice that there's a seam here, right? So there's two pieces there. So that's going to be, it's going to hit 4 layers of the canvas when it comes across here, right? You'll see it on this side. I'm going to fold over and make sure I've got enough folded here. Actually, I'll go ahead and fold over a bunch, at least a couple of, almost 2 inches on this side, because I'm going to come back over. We'll do the, we'll also let it sew over that webbing. You guys can see it can handle different fabrics. Okay, so what do we want? We're going to start here. Let's just do some straight stitch sewing. Isn't it funny with all the available, stitch options you had even back then? You could get, if you had the cams, you could do all these things. Straight stitching is a huge part of what many of you are going to do. It's just the nature of it. And some zigzagging, maybe some blind stitching, but if you really want to do decorative stitches with this machine, you can. And if you may have cams of your own, or if you're interested, you can purchase these. Okay, let's see what she will do. And I'm just going at a sort of a relaxing speed here. And I don't know if you guys can tell, because I know with the recording I have the microphone up as high as I can take it, but this machine is really quiet. It's about as quiet as a Neki. And the engineering is beautiful, okay? That's not true of every single Japanese clone. I wouldn't go that far. There were a lot of companies in Japan making machines after the Second World War ended. Now, let's see what we've got here. Let's increase our tension just a bit. And You'll notice that sometimes when you change fabric weights, you may have to change, let me get that seam under the foot there, you may have to change your tension a bit. That's not out of the ordinary when you're sewing, especially when you change fabric weights. Yeah, I'll show you the two rows and you'll see how that's a lot better. Now, let's go. We'll come over here and we'll set up a zigzag stitch. Remember to pull your needle up. Remember, there's no computer brain that's going to do that for you. You are the brains of the outfit here. But this machine brings brawn like you've never seen. Lord have mercy. Okay, so why don't we do this? We've got long. We'll leave the stitch length long, and then we'll just come over, and we'll come all the way over and to our widest zigzag. And it's pretty wide. One of the things you'll notice is when zigzag first appears in the vintage era of machines, the zigzags are not that wide. And then as time goes by, we get into the 60s and 70s, they started engineering them for wider zigzag for reasons that aren't clear to me. Maybe it was a fashion demand. Now you can watch, even in zigzag, how quiet this machine is. Okay? And she goes right over that seam, and remember that becomes 4 layers of a pretty good weight fabric. This is not tart canvas by any means, but it's pretty darn, it's pretty good weight, I believe. Okay, now let's come back. We're going to, I think I want to come back this way. Actually, now I'm going to switch back to, you can see the spring tension, it just follows, it follows you back. I'm going to bring this back to straight stitch, and we're going to come back over, and we're going to focus on this area where the webbing is. We'll just bring it right over here where we need it. And so now we're going to have 2 layers of the canvas, and then there's a layer of this, this webbing. And we'll just come down the center here. And I'm just going to let it feed on its own. This machine has so much power, I can make it go a lot faster, but I don't whenever I'm taking on heavy fabrics, mostly because I want my needles to not get upset with me and break. Because any sewing machine will do that. If you sew really fast, the machine may not like it because you're asking it to chew on fabrics that are pretty dense. So you want to give it time. That's a kind of a moderate speed. I wasn't going really slow. You can go slower, and you can certainly go faster on this thing. Okay, let's see. I'll pick up the speed a little bit. I'm not going to floor it, but you can see what it will do. And this time, let's go back to zigzag, and we'll go to let's do like a moderate zigzag, okay? And to lock it in, now some people don't always lock in things like stitch length, which you don't really have a lock here. This is kind of clicks into place. But with this here, you know, I could have left this knob alone, and with lightweight, medium weight fabrics, it doesn't often matter. But when you're doing something heavier, you may want to go ahead and lock it in just to, so it doesn't, you know, get squirrely on you. And I'm doing this zigzag. This, of course, is a long stitch, right? And let's see. Let's pull this off. I'll show you guys what the machine has been up to. Okay, let's start. Okay guys, this was the first row of stitches right here, okay? And you'll notice that, you know, the stitch is pretty consistent, but you will see the top thread not being pulled like it should, and that was because of the, the top thread looks great, right? Above, because our bobbin case tension is set just fine, but on the upper tension, we've got some loop just a little bit of looseness here. Not terrible, but not great either. So then you guys watched me. I changed I increased the thread tension, and look, you see the difference. Now, if I were to go to say like a silk fabric, I'd want to change my needle because that's 16 needles really too big for that, and maybe even my thread weight, and then I may have to change my tension, right? Because sometimes you have to adjust things, but those are not common changes that too many people have, I don't think. Okay, back up to the top here, and you'll see, so that's the first row, and then this row we adjusted the tension. Of course, the tension up top was just fine. It was the bottom thread that we needed to adjust up this here for. Okay, so now you see the big row of zigzag I made. Look, it went right over the seam. No problem. Let's flip it over, and you will see you can see the row of turquoise colored zigzag. And let's go back over here. This, of course, this is the double row of what do you call of this, where this bag is, like there's like a big seam here, and then we've got the nylon webbing on the other side. So you see, I came across here, and then I did that sort of not as wide. I did a zigzag. It's long, but it's not very wide. And then here, I wasn't paying attention, so I needed to. The machine was waiting for me. I could also lighten, by the way, the pressure on the pressure bar, right? So as you get things thicker, you have to make those adjustments, and that's just something you want to do anytime you're sewing. The white threads here are original to the bag, so ignore those. I don't have white in the spool or the bobbin right now. So when we flip it over, we can see, if I can get this out of the way here. Okay, now you see the turquoise. You see the straight line, a straight stitch I did. You see the not very wide zigzag I did. And then you'll see as it comes over, and it takes care of both layers of canvas and the nylon webbing. So not too shabby. And again, there are fabrics, lighter fabrics you can sew on like these. But this is the the white 565 model. And by the way, this generation of white machines, you will often see, you say, how do I know what model it is? It's going to vary depending on the brand, and it also varies depending on the manufacturer and the time and the model. But a lot of the white models from the late 50s, early 60s have a nice riveted plate here, not just a decal sticker, but an actual plate saying here's the model number, serial number, production. And then it says, look at that, guys. I don't know if that's showing up on the camera here. Let me see if I can zoom in. The reflection is a little weird, so bear with me. You guys see this? I don't know if you can tell, but this says J-A15, and that may be a reference to the specific Japanese manufacturer of the machine. I'll have to go. I think it references some of the Japanese clones. I'll have to go back and look. I don't remember. If some of you watching remember what that meant or what it stood for, feel free to put that down in the comments section below. But if any of you watching the video are interested in this machine, feel free to contact me. It comes with its very own turquoise color-coded foot pedal, and it's ready to go. It is ready to sew, and if you would like to set up a time to, if you're interested in purchasing the machine, let us know. It will be shown outside for everyone's safety, and hopefully we will get back in the summer. We will go back to some semblance of normal. I don't know, but in any case, this is a remarkable machine. And it's always a privilege to work on these. When I see these, you guys know I've worked on these before, whether it's this color or another color, doesn't matter so much as far as me wanting to rescue them, but it's hard to turn them down. I know how incredible they are, and I know that that they can sew all kinds of different fabrics. And they're simple enough that you don't have to deal with software and nonsense on some of the new machines, but this machine has quite a lot of flexibility, capability. So anyway, it is also portable in its own color-coordinated turquoise two-toned carry case. Anyway, guys, I so appreciate you watching. Stay tuned. I'm going to be making hopefully a few more videos here over this particular weekend, and have videos in the hopper for you guys. Hopefully that we'll be able to get through the winter together and focus on hobbies that make us feel good in a year that has had a lot of challenges for everyone. Everyone out there, stay safe. Thank you for watching, and we will see you next time.